Welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Shaffer. Before I get to our case today, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching, although Instagram will be having a separate stream shortly after this. And if you find this video to be helpful or know someone who may, please go ahead and hit that share button. Also, if you cannot hear me, please let me know. Got a new microphone and we're still trying to deal with some of these technical audio difficulties, but hopefully you can hear me because this is a really, I'm really excited to talk about this case today. So this client in particular, I actually have done a notable approval on. If you go back and look at our videos, I talked about how we helped a client from Honduras who had been a permanent resident living in the US, but had moved back to Honduras for a number of years. And he thought he might be a US citizen, but didn't know how to prove it. And he had been trying for years, and he called us and we got him his US passport, which is his evidence of US citizenship. That's all he needed because he had derived citizenship through his father. This client then filed for his family. He filed I-130 petitions for his wife, his two stepchildren, and 2 children, and his father, who is a U.S. citizen now, applied for his mother to come over. So he filed for all of them, and they were approved. And then in June of this year, he found out from the National Visa Center that all of the family members were documentarily qualified, which meant that they've submitted everything to the National Visa Center that they need to, and all we're waiting for now is the case to be transferred to the embassy in Honduras so that their visa interviews can be scheduled. And his mom, the kids, and the wife, they all lived together back in Honduras. They had a business they were running, and his plan was, I'm going to move to I got my passport. I'm going to move to the U.S., get us a house, get a job, get everything up and running while we're waiting for you guys to come over here. And he did that. But problem was, as he was waiting for the I-130s to be approved and the National Visa Center process to go through, conditions in Honduras started to get even worse. So bad so that his family started getting threatened by gang members. They were extorting him. They knew he had a business. They wanted, typical gang activity, trying to get money out of a local business. So he realized, look, it's just not safe here anymore. I got to sell my business and use that money to get my family out of this country. And that's what he did. So he sold his business. He sold some other assets, filed for them. Everything's looking good. And his goal was, I want to get the kids here, before the end of August, because that's when they start school. So he reached out to me shortly after he found out that MVC has everything they need and they're just waiting for their visa interview to be scheduled. He learned that it was taking about 3 to 5 months for the embassy to process the applications and give a visa interview. So he had asked me, is there any way we can do it faster? And I was like, well, we could do a request to expedite, but generally they only approve them if someone's dying or there's a medical procedure that needs to be done. It has to be a humanitarian reason. It has to be extreme. And I was like, honestly, other people waiting in Honduras for their visa interviews are also in these horrible situations. If they have children, they also want to start school. So I said, I don't think we have enough. And, I kept it in mind. And then less than a month later, about a month later, they announced that the new Family Reunification Parole Process is opening for citizens of certain countries, including Honduras. So I got excited. I looked at the regulations. It just said as long as you don't have a visa in your passport, basically by the time that you get invited, because I'll give a quick explanation about the visa, the Family Reunification Parole Process, or FRP. Then you should be eligible. So the FRP basically says you can't just apply. And if you go back, I did a whole what you really want to know on the Family Reunification Process, or at least the new one. And in order for them to control the amount of applications they get, they are sending out invites. And once you get your invite, then you can have your petitioner apply for you. And if it gets approved, basically you don't have to wait all that time to get your visa your consular visa interview. Instead, you're going to be paroled into the US and apply for adjustment of status when your visa number is available. All sounds well and good, except that I was like, oh, this is great. Let's do it. It opened July 31st, the process of them sending out invites. And they were kind of vague on how they were deciding who to send invites to. It was kind of looking at how long the wait's going to be. The purpose was to deter illegal immigration. So let's say you had to wait 10 years for your visa number to become available. They don't want you getting, literally having to leave your country because it's so bad that you decide to risk entering the US illegally. So that's why they created this program. So somebody that he knew had gotten an invite, like one of the first invites to go out. And in the invite, it said that who is, it was probably like a 10-page letter. It said who is eligible, who wasn't. And it clearly stated that immediate relatives of U.S. citizens are not eligible for this process. And so he told me that, and he was worried. He's like, should we even do this? And I'm like, let me look at the regulations. So I pull up the regulations, and those are very long usually. And I've read every single part of it twice. And I said to him, there's nothing in here that says immediate relatives are ineligible. In fact, it would lead me to believe the other way, because it says that as long as you don't have an immigrant visa already in your passport, then you're eligible. Because they're telling us 3 to 5 months right now, but we don't know how long that's going to be. So why should people get to cut the line but not the immediate relatives if they need it? So it didn't seem right to me. So I reached out to some of my colleagues, and I reached out to some colleagues in the American Immigration Lawyers Association, or AILA, which is the biggest U.S. immigration attorney association. And they hadn't even seen the invite letter. I was the first one to send it to them, and they were very grateful to me and my client for sharing it, because a lot of times these new programs come out, even the attorneys are kind of clouded in mystery on how things are going to go out, like how things are going to happen. We weren't sure even if they were going to target people who are waiting the longest, or what they were going to do, because they didn't give much guidelines. This is all discretionary. Should they have more guidelines? It's an issue for another day. But essentially, there were no guidelines. So I said to him, look, we could take a chance, and we could always file an expedite if they say no. But first, we had to request the invitation, and there was no guarantee we would get an invitation, or that they'd even respond saying you're not eligible for an invitation. So we were talking more, and then my client said to me, I have a friend who is in a similar situation, and he wanted his kids to start school on time. So he basically filed an expedite request saying, my children aren't English speakers. They're going to be at a huge disadvantage to start school in the middle of the school year. And he said it worked. Now, if you're listening out there, when people like to tell me, my friend, my cousin, my sister, my brother did X, Y, or Z, and it worked, or it didn't work, so I want to do or not do this. Generally, I say, well, just because it worked for them doesn't mean it will work for you. Or, you can't, you know, can't rely on what other people say or do. Every situation's different. We don't really know the story. Not that I'm giving excuses, because, and the reality is that, when I see it all the time, that someone says, oh, I did this, my cousin or my friend did this, it worked, I want to do this. And then I actually take a look at what happened, and it turns out the cases are completely different, or there's some reason, like something that was left off the facts. So I said to him, so we started talking more, and he told me a little bit more, that his daughter had some, like, I think it was sinusitis, like really bad, and the doctors were actually worried about her getting to the U.S. when it was already cold, because it's affected by climate. So when it's colder weather, so they wanted her to get here to get used to it. Okay, so that's another hardship on top of it. And now we're getting into medical hardship, which is what they love to look for when they're expediting cases. And then he told me that his mother, even though he couldn't petition to expedite, but his dad could, who lived with the family, she couldn't stay there without them, because I don't exactly remember what is wrong with her hip, but she has some hip problem or leg problem that she's not really able to walk far. So she needs his wife to help her go to the grocery store, to the doctor, all that type of stuff. So we had to actually do the request. We had to do two separate requests, one for his wife, his two kids and stepkids, and then his father had to file a separate one, and then I asked for them to be combined. So basically what we did, we put together a nice evidence package. I had him, his wife, his mother, and his father all explain the situation in affidavits. We attached proof of the relationship, because even though USCIS already had it, or I should, and MVC had the proof of relationship, you still want to make it clear. Just so the less they have to do, the easier it is for you to get it approved. We submitted doctor letters about the daughter and the his mother, and we submitted communication with the school in Maryland where his family's going to live, to show when the school year starts, along with the school calendar. So I submitted that on August 9th. I also wrote a nice little cover letter explaining the evidence and saying, hey, by the way, guys, over at MVC, your new family reunification parole process is great, but it doesn't seem to apply to immediate relatives. We're not clear on this, but it doesn't seem very fair that my clients who are suffering, who are immediate relatives, who usually get the priority because of how close their relationship is to the petitioner, are going to potentially wait even longer, because if the embassy is caught up doing background checks for this parole process, then it can take even longer, and they might not be in the U.S. until the end of the 2023. So, can you respectfully request that you expedite the case? So I sent that on August 9th. August 14th, we get an email that the request was granted, and they're all six. There are six of them. All six cases were scheduled for interviews. Before we pop some bottles, the one thing that I was a little frustrated about with the embassy is that, yes, they were scheduled 5 days after I asked, which shows that the expedite request worked, but they did schedule the interviews for October, and they scheduled mom and the kids October, like beginning of October, and towards like third or fourth week of October, they scheduled his mother, which who knows why. Point is that my assumption is the 3 to 5 month wait time that my client initially thought it was is now a lot longer, because if you count on your hand from June to October, we are at the tail end of that 3 to 5 month period. So it makes me feel a little like, am I useless here? But no. The fact is that was probably the first available appointment, because they granted the expedite request. If they didn't, it would still be pending. Um, so I'm a little surprised it's gonna take that long, but at least now my client has the peace of mind and knows, okay, on this date, this is when my family is going to get their visa interviews. This is when I can buy, a ticket to come to the US, and they're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, but it's a lot less stressful knowing. So, in conclusion, a lot of I get requests to expedite cases a lot, and I'm always reluctant to do it because, it costs clients money. I don't want you to be paying for things that, you know, aren't going to work or have a very low probability of working because that money could be used elsewhere, especially with clients in tight financial situations. But what we also sometimes we got to just go for it and try. And even though I would have liked the visa interviews for them to be in August or early September, I honestly think that it was the closest interview they could have gotten. And, you know, that was the goal. So sometimes you just got to look at it from the bright side. I mean, I know my client's ecstatic. He's not upset at all. I think I'm more upset because I was like, should be next week your interviews. But look, we're just happy that they got them scheduled. Like I said, that in and of itself gives them a timeline because they're living off their savings right now. And they need to know when they're going to be able to start building their life here in the US. So, um, that was a lot, but a very important case to keep in mind, especially anyone looking to expedite cases, and especially people looking to expedite cases from countries that are having a lot of problems. They don't have to be designated like Honduras was as a country where we're going to parole people in. Um, but if you know, everyone who's waiting is going to be suffering the same problems. However, if you have anything that's even slightly more than the average person, then contact me. Contact information is rolling across the bottom of your screen. Be happy to help. And, look, if I don't think it's going to work, I'm not going to take your money. I want to get your family here as quick as possible. That's my goal. But sometimes you just have to wait, and this client trusted me. He waited, and then he said, "All right, let's go for it." And we did, and it worked. So congratulations. I'm excited for this client. I can't wait for him and his family to finally have their interviews and be in the US. I'm sure I will update you all then. Um, Other than that, don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are watching, although Instagram isn't watching this uh, broadcast. And if you found this video to be helpful or know someone who may, please go ahead and hit that share button. Um, Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.